here at the Pray Vote Stand Summit. And so Dean Bachmann, I often refer to you as Dean Bachmann, but so Michele, key issues regarding Israel. I know that you were talking with Tony and Perkins about this matter. So what are your top concerns right now, since it's been what's happened last Friday at the UN and the Prime Minister?
Well, so much has happened in the last 2 weeks. A lot of people have no idea really what's happened. It's been miraculous, but it began with a disaster. And the disaster was at the United Nations. The United Nations meets once a year, and it's usually about the third week of September. And they met for the annual meeting, and the first order of business at the annual meeting was a resolution introduced illegally by Palestinian Authority, and they introduced a resolution that demanded that the Jewish people exit, all Jews would have to exit Judea, Samaria, East Jerusalem, and Gaza within 12 months. And then another part of the resolution demanded that the nations, all 194 UN member nations, would not be resupplying Israel with weapons and ammunition. This is a severe, severe resolution, and it was passed overwhelmingly at the UN. Only 14 countries voted no out of 194 countries. So this was a tragic start. This was a violation of Joel chapter 3, verses 2 in the Bible, which says that God will bring all nations to the valley of decision, and there he will judge the nations based on how they treat Israel. And that is 3 criterion. Did the nations seek to divide the land of Israel? Did they seek to scatter the Jewish people away from their land? And number 3, did the nations treat the Jewish people cruelly or cheaply or lightly? All 3 of those criterion were contained in that resolution. All 3 of the criterion were violated. So the nations failed. The nations took a failing vote at the United Nations, and then on Sunday a second vote was taken, which was highly consequential, and it was a pre-agreed document that was consensus, and the leader just put a gavel down, and so no nation voted on it. It was just passed by the sound of a gavel, and it changed the UN forever, because it created a perch for global governance, because it augmented the power of the Secretary General so that in case of what he would declare an emergency, which would be a complex global shock. It's on page 54 of the Pact for the Future. He's now empowered to declare some sort of an emergency, global complex shock, and that could include conflicts. So conceivably, he could declare what's happening once Israel now attacks Iran, which is fully expected. He could declare a global complex shock that would create a platform for global governance, and he could start to impose powers on nations for global governance. It's shocking what happened, but what's happened since then is the God of Israel spoke. And so as the nations were coming against Israel and empowering themselves almost like a modern day Tower of Babel, instead the God of Israel showed up, and he said what his will is. And as rockets were coming against Israel from Lebanon in the north, from Hamas in the west, from 7 different nations, God intervened and he miraculously saved Israel. So much so that in the history of the world, in 5,000 years of recorded human history, we've never seen precision ballistic missiles fired at a nation like we did from Iran. Iran fired 190 precision ballistic missiles. These are fast missiles. They go up into space briefly and come down, and it only took about 12 minutes to arrive in Israel. But what God did was phenomenal. He ensured that not one Israeli died, and that not one infrastructure or military base or significant building or school or shopping center was damaged. Not even a highway was damaged. It was absolutely miraculous. What's even more miraculous is that all 3 systems that Israel has for defense worked beautifully and worked hand in hand together. That's almost impossible in physics, but the short-range system, the Iron Dome, the medium-range system, David's sling, the long-range system, the arrow, they all work perfectly. They all worked in precision. Even the manufacturer doesn't guarantee the type of precision that we saw. So this was the intervening hand of a holy God that saved the Jewish people and saved Israel. Israel could have been destroyed. In this one attack, the entire nation could have been destroyed, wiped out. But that didn't happen because of God's intervening hand.
Well, you saw the Prime Minister's speech at the UN?
Yes.
And he was talking about blessing and cursing.
Yes.
He brought up some charts whatsoever. But the foundational issue is what you talked about in Joel.
Yes.
There really is God's anger toward people that scatters people divide up the land. But yet the White House continues to promote this two-state delusion. And it's miraculous what would happen for Israel in the defeat of that Hezbollah leader, Nasrallah.
Yes.
I mean, he
it was.
had a rude awakening right after
It was,
the speech,
and it was interesting. You know, Israel was in the process of being attacked from rockets from Lebanon. This is before the Iranian missile barrage came into Israel this week. And our current Vice President, Kamala Harris, who's now running as president in this election, came out after the resolution had been passed at the General Assembly in the UN condemning Israel and telling the Jewish people they have to exit their land. She came out and said that she would not support the United States giving the two-ton bombs that Israel needs to have in warfare. She said she wouldn't support that. She also said that she demands that Israel would accept a two-state solution. Well, why would they? We're talking about a terror state. This would be Israel agreeing to suicide. You can't reward a terror state by taking away land from the Jewish people. So this would be like taking away Texas and Florida and California out of the United States and giving it to terrorists who would be bombing the United States. That's absolutely an insane policy. It shows that Kamala Harris doesn't understand nor appreciate the threat to the Middle East, nor does she understand that this threat isn't just to Israel. This threat is intended for us in the U.S. This is what she doesn't understand, because Iran has stated quite plainly that their intent is not only to destroy Israel and the Jewish people, but to destroy the United States, to destroy the American people. And once they have nuclear weapons, they absolutely will use them. They'll use the nuclear weapons to wipe out Israel if they need to, but to wipe out America, certainly. And what would we do? So it shows, again, one of the most important issues in this upcoming election cycle is Israel and what will happen. And Vice President Kamala Harris has flunked the test already. Donald Trump has overwhelmingly passed the test. He's been excellent as a foreign policy president, whereas Vice President Kamala Harris has completely destroyed herself throughout this last 4 years. But even now, in the midst of war, she's blaming the victim, Israel, and she won't stand up for them.
It's very troubling. It actually came up in the State Department press meeting today about this two-state delusion. They keep promoting this as a solution, as peace, but there can't be, as we've talked about before.
Well, it is a delusion because there's already multiple Arab states. There's about 57 Arab states already, and Israel in 2005 gave over the governance of Gaza to the Arab people. They've had a chance since 2005, and what did they do? They turned it into a complete terror state. They had billions of dollars given to them by the United States, Europe, others, and what did they do with that money? They built a terror state. That's exactly what's happened in Lebanon. So we can't be this foolish. We can't be this stupid that we would be willing to reward evildoers. That's what this is. This is a moral evil, a moral wrong, and we need to get a brain in the United States, and we as the voters need to recognize we cannot elect leaders who don't have a moral compass. Kamala Harris is proof. She has no moral compass when it comes to foreign policy. And on this issue alone, America needs to act in its own best interests, and that is for our foreign policy best interests, which are actually our domestic interests. So we cannot have a President Kamala Harris. She will destroy the Middle East, she'll destroy Israel, and she'll destroy the United States.
These are very special issues, very crucial issues for the survival of Israel and America. And we're here at the Family Research Council's Pray Vote Stand Summit, and this is Michele Bachmann, the Dean of the School of Government there at Regent University, and you're also connected to the Family Research Council.
Yes, I'm the chairman of the board.
Chairman of the board.
Yes, I am.
So, and I've met you in Jerusalem a few times. So.
Yes, we've been together there as well. So. That's right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate
for all
it.
your time. I know you've got a really busy schedule here.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you.